So in this episode, I'm going to talk about getting online. As you know, with the quarantine, people around the world are looking at ways to get online. Now, when people ask for advice on getting online, there's usually 3 bits of software that are recommended to go on to play as on a virtual tabletop. These are Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and Tabletop Simulator. Now, I'm not going to cover all 3 of these. They've been covered to death on other podcasts, and I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to the 3T podcast and the Murder Hobo show, which both looked at all 3 of these VTTs and discussed them and reviewed them and given them the pros and cons. So if you want to hear about those 3 VTTs, virtual tabletops, then head over to those podcasts linked to the show notes. I'm going to talk about 3 other VTTs you can look at, which is going to be slightly off the wall, so let's go to it. The first one I'm going to mention is called Map Tool, and that's available from rptools.net. Now, this virtual tabletop has been going since 2005, so it's long established. The things that are going for it is completely free to download and free to use. There's no subscriptions, no payments. The second thing is it's open source, so all the code you can have a look at. If you want to, you can have a look at what each line of code does. There's nothing proprietary here, and you can see what your data is happening to it. That's a big thumbs up. It's also Java-based, meaning it's platform independent. So it runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. As long as you've got Java installed, it runs. Another plus point for it is that you can have unlimited size of maps, and you can also have an unlimited number of maps. The only thing that's going to be holding you back is your processing power of your computer and your hard disk drive. It's got fog of war built in, and it's got 2 versions. You can have automatic fog of war that's revealed with character line of sight, or as a GM, you can draw fog of war on there and reveal it. So you've got the choice of the type of fog of war that you want, if you want to use it at all. It's also got support for Hero Lab. It uses Hero Lab to create characters. Then it's got support for that. It's got support for Sirenscape as well. So if you use Sirenscape, you can plug that in. It's got PDF image support, and it's got a good multi-language support. Now, the thing about Map Tool is that it's a community project. So the people involved with it, they're not commercial. They're doing it for the pure love of the virtual tabletop. And I often hear mentioned that Map Tool is complicated virtual tabletop, and you should go with something simpler. And I've proved that you can run it really simple. All you need to do is to drag a map onto it, drag some tokens, and draw some fog of war, and you can be up and running really quickly. And I've done a video on this on YouTube, so if you want to see a really simple way to run Map Tool, then head over to the link which I'll put in the description, and it's nice and visual. Now, the thing about Map Tool as well is that it runs on your host machine, so you're not reliant on a server. And what happens is every player has a copy of the program. The GM starts his copy of the program up, connects to the internet, and then all the other players to connect directly to his computer. So that you're not reliant on a third party. So as long as you're all using the same version of software, you can all connect. It's got maps, dice tool, and chat already built in. So it's got the majority of things there, and I found it really good. My players who have never played online before, on the second online session, I got them to install Map Tool, and we're up and running. If you want to go a bit more complicated, you can use frameworks, and these are fan created, and basically somebody has set up all the buttons and the behind the scenes wizardry, and you can download a framework, put it on your machine, and that's what I've done for my 5e campaign. I've downloaded Melic's Simple 5e framework, and that is running for me. And I've also done a comprehensive video on that one as well, which is also on YouTube. So if you want to see how I use that one, then check that one out as well. Now, the next bit of software I'm going to suggest is called Gtove. And Gtove is a quite recent project run by Rob Rendell. And again, this is an open source project. He's got all his code on GitHub. And basically, this was from the inspiration by the 3D virtual tabletop, which was a tabletop which had basically a map and 3D tokens which you could move around. But the project stalled. The developer sort of stepped away for a while and disappeared off the face of the earth, although in the last 24 hours he has reappeared and is starting to look at 3D VTT again. But Gtove was a spin-off from that by Rob. And basically you need a Google Drive account. He's got an instance up and running that you sign it in with your Gmail account. And basically you upload your predefined maps and it converts them to like a 3D map where you can spin around, a bit like Tabletop Simulator, where you can spin it around left to right, up and down. You import your minis and it converts those minis into tokens, and you put the tokens on top of the table. And it also includes Fog of War, and it's all very 3D orientated. The players can connect to it through the link you send them. The only downside of it is that all the players need a Gmail account because it works through Google Drive. And basically when you upload maps and tokens, then it stores you on your Google Drive. And every time your players go to a new map, then it asks them for permission again to access that drive because, well, unfortunately, that's the API for Google Drive. It requires permission every time. I have suggested to Rob that he looks at something like Dropbox as a possibility. But it converts, as I say, converts the map to 3D. You can have Fog of War, which you can draw on, and then you have a GM view and a player view. So that one works quite nice. It's quite simple, very lightweight. He's recently put on a dice roll as well, so you can roll 3D dice on that. So he seems to be developing it quite well. So Gtove is another one to look out for. And again, I will leave links in the show notes. Now, the last piece of software, again, is even newer than Gtove, and it's called Mapper VTT, or Mapper Virtual Tabletop, and that's by Homebrewed Games. And the author of that is Urbano Raukis. And this is a little bit different again. This is a standalone application, which is basically an HTML file with some CSS, and you host it on your computer. And the idea is that you run it on your computer and you stream your computer screen to your player screen. It comes pre-installed with 20 maps, which the designer has put on there to show it's capable of. And basically you click on one of those maps and it appears in your browser screen. Then over the top of those maps, you can superimpose props, which are things like statues and stuff like that. You can superimpose player tokens, and he's got some generic player tokens in small, medium and large size, and some encounter tokens, which are your monster tokens, and these are in small, medium, large, and I think it's gargantuan size, which are really huge. You can flip a grid off and on, and basically on the left side of the browser screen you put your map, and then by clicking on the tokens they appear on the map, and you can drag the tokens around, and the tokens freely move around just using your normal CSS script. And it's a really simple system, and I've been in touch with Urbano about it, and as a result of me being in touch, he's also recently added Fog of War. So now you've got Fog of War templates you can drag around the screen and rotate to mask out bits of your map. He's added the facility to resize the map. So if you've got a large map you want to drop the size down, there's a resize map drop-down box, which is 5% increments. He's also recently added templates for spells as well. The other thing he's built into it is that he's built in a initiative tracker. And basically you can type in up to 14 characters' names and monsters' names, and then you can drag them up and down for initiative order. So it's a really simple solution. It's lightweight because it's running off your home computer, and it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but it's a little bit different. So those are 3 different virtual tabletops that you might consider looking at, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes to where you can get all 3 of those. And if you keep an eye on my YouTube channel, then I'm going to do a video review of Gtove and Mapper Virtual Tabletop in the near future as well, so that you can actually see what that's all about. So that's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you all on the flip side. You have been listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. My name is Pete Jones. You can find more information at my website at petejones.neocities.org or at my blog at dragonsarealpodcast.tumblr.com. The opening music was Fireflies and Stardust by Kevin MacLeod. The closing music, also by Kevin MacLeod, was Fretless